One of the longest running and hot topics of debate with popular established entertainment franchises is side media. Additional media that most often expands on events and characters in the a-canon continuity of the lore or fictional world of a universe, including moving it forward from its contained media source. From 2008 to 2012, Epic Games collaborated with publishers producing many books and comics to Gears of War around its coherent central storyline that became equally important to the games, producing some great artwork, extras, and mature movie-caliber scripts. And one of the best in the GOW expanded universe is Gears of War Barren, a 5-issue comic storyline written by Joshua Ortega, art by Liam Sharp, along with the help of a skilled team. It's a really good comic that gets to the root of what Gears of War is all about, as well as the perfect take on character. The premise is Delta Squad investigating an overrun city in the Coalition of Order governments, where a simple mission turns into the longest day of their lives. So let's get to it. Barren was released back in July 2009 and was the 9th comic for Gears of War published by Wildstorm, lasting for 5 issues, each an episodic piece to the unifying storyline depicting the central characters with sub and intimate groups. The story follows Marcus, Fenix, and Delta Squad, who are dispatched to investigate a distress signal in the city of Jelaine, with the addition of a scout named Alex to use her native knowledge and skills to help them, as well as Damon Baird and Augustus Cole joining them to increase the mission's firepower. They begin their search at a farm that reportedly didn't get evacuated from the city's withdrawal months ago before the Locust invasion. When Marcus and the gang search the facility looking around for clues and to where the signal is coming from, they encounter a group of women led by a spokesperson named Annalisa, who orders them to hand over their weapons and surrender. After a small firefight and brief altercation, both parties settle into an uneasy truce. As we soon find out, the women call themselves the Grievous Bodily Love, a motley crew of patients, former staff members, including children, that fought any locusts that got near their hideout and remained in isolation after the fall of the city. Pretty soon, the stakes rise even higher when Marcus and the gang locate the source of the signal, which was a beacon device activated by one of the women who went insane. Marcus orders the crazy woman holding it to hand it over, and soon discovers she wasn't trying to call the cog, but the Horde. Naturally, the whole thing culminates into an epic battle of gunfights and explosions as Marcus, Delta, and the survivors retreat to an emergency bunker to defend. After waves of attacks, outgunned and surrounded, will they find a way out? There was just something awesome in reading again and again about this Gears of War comic. From the hand-drawn artwork, dreamy visuals, and the short, realistic word balloons and narration of the characters loaded with personality. A straightforward survival story about a unit of soldiers with a simple objective, intrigue, horror, and action. A group of fighters and civilians against a superior force in a confined location with no possibility of outside help. If I had to describe Gears of War Barren, it's a blend of filmmaker James Cameron's 1986 sci-fi action film Aliens filtered through an early 90s indie comic aesthetic. A comic with a good cast that manages to be a smart and thoughtful narrative, trying to say a lot more than at first glance, while adding further to the Gears of War games building upon them. The framing in the book is well executed, the gesture work and the sense of motion all propel the tale forward. This is a world that's dark, damaged, and desolate, and the location of an abandoned farm, although it's really a health center, does create a strong sense of atmosphere of the unknown. It also gives a sense of being outnumbered and little time to escape, which amplifies the tension throughout. Visually, it's interesting, with a cold palette, and character designs are consistent and look good on every page. There are some pages in the run that do get overstuffed with dialogue and become pretty talk-heavy, some of which objectively not needed, since the images and framing are readable and clear, and characters' emotions and movements are easily identifiable to follow, but these issues are few and far between. The characters are all good, especially the supporting cast, which is quite large, and they all share equal importance in the story. Marcus Fenix and Delta Squad are just as enjoyable here as they are in the Gears of War games, with their iconic camaraderie and banter amongst them, especially Damon Baird, whose charisma is off the scale here, while also adding some nice bonus development to Marcus and Damon's unspoken professional rivalry of command and direction, and they both get moments to argue his point of view, including justify his perspective. EU veteran Jay Stratton gets some good spotlight in this, a heart of gold, brave and determined to devote his life to a woman he barely knows. At first, the romance between Jace and one of the members of the GBL comes across as sort of pointless and tonally off, but through both the artwork and writing, it becomes more of a narrative focal point with a strong resolution. However, the strongest standout in this is Alexandra Brand, an original character created by comic book artist legend Jim Lee. A strong-willed, able soldier of pure action, comfortable with war with a tragic past. She's a character that rarely talks, choosing not to engage with most people and only speaks directly to a few, but as the story progresses, you get to see deeper layers to her, and realize behind her bitter facade, she's actually a lovely and very loyal person. An excellent character, sympathetic, who gets put through the mill, willing to use her skills, and happily throw herself into every fight to protect her fellow Gears, refusing to ever abandon them.
People ask me, why do you do it, man? Why? They won't understand. They won't understand why we do it. They won't understand. It's about the men next to you.
Overall, Gears of War Barren is a solid comic series that draws you in right from the first page of action. A world-class with gritty and authentic characters, with a simple premise done extremely well while teaching some important life lessons. It has a start, middle, and an end. It's not reliant on a follow-up to continue its story. It has its own identity, and it uses the games, mostly the first two, for its backstory to give it momentum. For those of you who haven't read it, it delves into a part of the Gears of War universe that hasn't been shown before, introduces one of the franchise's best characters, as well as strips down to the root of what makes Gears of War so compelling. If you're a Gears of War fan, I can't recommend Barren enough. Read it, collect it, buy it.